Posca markers. You've seen them, I've seen them, we've probably seen them, I don't know. But, you know, I've seen them all over the internet a lot recently, and I decided to get some to try out for myself. And this video is basically going to be telling you my thoughts on them, show you how I use them, and this is not a tutorial video because I am not at all a professional when it comes to using these types of markers, but I was very excited to get them in the mail, and I'm really excited to show you all the artworks I made with them. Now, Posca markers are an acrylic-based paint marker, and they are, I see people use them on YouTube a lot to make cool pop art stuff of cartoon characters, and that's what I wanted to do. And I got the basic 8-color set off of Amazon. It was on sale, so that was perfect. They arrived in the mail, and I emptied them out, and the colors you get are red, yellow, green, blue, light blue, pink, and then a black and a white. Also, the day before I ordered the markers, I went to Michael's and got some extra colors. I got a gray, an orange, which both were not in this original 8-color set, and an extra black and a white, and also a neon yellow. There was no purple, but then I remember that I had these markers. These are some Sharpie paint pens I've had for a while, and they're a little brush tip, and I had a couple extra colors, a brighter shade of green, yellow, and a purple. So now I had all the basic colors of secondaries and primaries that I would need to make certain characters. But like I said, I've never really used a paint marker before, so this was definitely going to be somewhat of a challenge to try and learn how these work. Now all I had to do was find out something to draw. And this is where the hard part came in. I really didn't know what to draw, and I didn't really have a plan when I got these markers, and I probably should have made a plan, but I kept getting distracted trying to think of what I should draw. There were so many cool cartoon characters that I wanted to try to draw, but there was just so many, and some of them had really complicated designs. So I figured before I drew anything, I would go ahead and actually activate the markers. These markers don't come pre-activated, you can't just start drawing with them out of the box. You actually have to pre-activate them and get them ready for drawing. I already activated these two colors right here, and they seem to go down pretty well, and they make a pretty clean line, but there's actually instructions on the side of the markers that tell you what to do. They tell you to shake up the markers really, really well, and then once you're done shaking them, you take off the cap, and then you press down until the paint starts seeping into the nib. But as you can see there, the nib is all white, there's no paint in it, so you have to start pressing down a lot to actually get the paint to come down into the nib. It takes a lot of shaking and a lot of pressing, but eventually it comes out pretty well, and then you can get some really clean lines with it. As you can see there, all the paint starts seeping down to the nib. The more you press, the more paint comes out. This is a little tip for when using these. If you're going to draw with them, don't press down hard at all when using them. Go in light strokes. The harder you press, the more paint will come out, and then you might get a lot of goopy areas with the paint if you press down while drawing with it. It might cause paint to splat all over your drawing. As you can see, I did the yellow there, and these markers have a very aesthetic feel. They're very fun to look at, and they have a very nice design to them. Next, I want to try out, before I did anything else though, these little Sharpie paint markers. I had used them to add a couple colored highlights to certain drawings before, but I never really used them that much. The yellow really wasn't that different from the yellow that came with the set, so I figured I really wouldn't be using that marker that much. But the purple seemed to go down pretty well. It wasn't as clean as the other Posca markers. That may have just been because it was a brush, so the tip was a little worn out. But, you know, it worked. And the green I definitely think was a brighter shade of green compared to the green that came in the 8-color set. So that means I had a nice range of around 15, 13 colors, I'm pretty sure, to use. So then I began activating all of the other markers. With all my markers activated, now I had all of my colors ready, and I could start drawing whatever I wanted. And I think I had finally found out something I wanted to draw by now. So I broke out my sketchbook and began sketching. If you'd like a sketchbook tour sometime, please let me know down in the comments. I'd love to go through some of my old sketchbooks and show you other things I've drawn and compare them to my newest one, which you're seeing right here. But I decided to draw Jake the dog from Adventure Time. He's a very simple character design. He's just a yellow dog, basically, and he had some very thick black lines. So I figured this is going to be a good starter drawing to try out with these markers. So I just broke out the black and started doing the lines after I drew the sketch. I definitely should not have done the black lines first, and we're going to see why in a little bit. But as you can see, I didn't start off too well. It was a little wobbly, and I made his head a little too short, but these markers fill in large spaces pretty well, and they have a really clean line to them if you have a steady hand. So I definitely enjoyed using these to do that, but I definitely wasn't happy with how wobbly all the lines were. But the line work doesn't look too terrible, and then I decided to wait for the black to dry, and then broke out the yellow to start doing some of the colors. Now these markers, they're a little finicky sometimes. They have a tendency to reactivate other colors that are already dry. So no matter how dry the color is, it'll reactivate like that there. As you can see, the yellow reactivated the black and caused it to smudge with the yellow. So that is a little aggravating, which is why I decided to, I'm doing two drawings in this video, I decided not to do the black lines first and do the black lines over everything that's already colored. So that way it defeats any risk of me accidentally mushing the colors together. Markers layer over each other fairly well though, and you're able to get them to, you can fix mistakes pretty well with them. So if you do end up smudging, you can just layer the color over it a couple times, and eventually it'll start looking a lot nicer. These markers do not blend also, so if you are a alcohol marker enthusiast or water-based marker and you like the blendability of those types of markers, these markers do not blend at all. They will mostly just smush around, and they're mostly used to, you know, make larger, more popping lines than smoother blending lines. So definitely you can still get that sort of effect with alcohol markers, but if you're if you're an artist that likes blended, smooth colors, then these markers do not do that. But if you want to try out pop art or comic art even, something that looks a little bit more grounded than softer shadows, you can do harder shadows with these, but you just cannot blend them whatsoever. But they are really good for cell shading and really great for adding highlights to stuff. But yeah, these markers do not blend whatsoever. I then added some gray shading to his eyes just to try and bring out the drawing a little bit more. It didn't really work that well, but it added something to it. Then I used my orange Sharpie here. I mixed media a little bit just to add an outline, and it's best not to combine alcohol markers with these. At least if you do the alcohol markers first and then do the Posca on top, because the alcohol can reactivate and smudge and end up ruining your marker, which ended up happening with this orange one. And I don't know why I didn't think that. I mean, alcohol is basically a solvent, so it can undo whatever it wants. But, you know, it ended up coming out pretty well, and I'm not too unhappy with it, but I definitely knew I could do better. So with the next drawing, I knew I'm going to take everything I learned from the first one and make sure to not make the same mistakes twice. So I cleaned off all my markers, and then I chose Kirby as the second drawing because he's fairly simple. He's just a ball with red legs, so I figured I could do this one fairly simple. But instead of doing all the black lines first, I decided to outline everything in a color and fill it in first, and then do the black lines around it. This would make it so that way I don't smudge any of the colors. I mean, at least you wouldn't be able to see it since it's black and it's dark enough to where you're not going to see any of the smudged colors together. So I decided to do that, and I'm going with very light strokes here. I was going a little hard and heavy-handed with the yellow on Jake, so that's probably why it smudged sometimes. But going with lighter strokes I think definitely helped to make this look a lot smoother. And if you're seeing a lot of little paper teared, oh, I smudged it there. If you're seeing a lot of teared paper chunks on this, that's going to happen with you regardless. No matter, all the videos I watched talked about this, and no matter what paper you use, these markers are always going to end up tearing it a little bit, no matter the thick of paper, unless you're using like canvas with them. That's just what these markers do. There's really no way to bypass it unless you like varnish the paper beforehand, or if you're using canvas. So don't worry if you're first trying these out and the paper starts ripping. That's just going to happen no matter how light you go. If you layer the colors at all, the paper's eventually just going to buckle underneath that paint. So It's not too much of a problem, but it can be aggravating, but it ends up looking really nice whenever it's dry, and you can just flick the little paper chunks that get dried on there off. It's really not a huge deal, but no matter what I did, I tried out these markers on multiple different papers, from printer papers to heavier cardstocks and Bristols, and it ripped the paper no matter what. So that's really not something you can bypass, but it's not too hard to get around. If you get like a soft brush or a scraper of some sort, you can just get all those little paper chunks off. You can also layer these the colors of these pretty well. If your color's looking a little light, you can layer it. Just be very careful when you do that. That can end up damaging the paper a little bit, and it can soak it and make the paper bend, which might not be what you want, but it definitely works if the color is looking a little streaky. But as you can see here, I'm just flicking off some of those little paper chunks because they got everywhere. I'm doing Kirby's eyes, and I went very careful with his eyes because I've drawn Kirby before, and I always seem to get his eyes wrong. I think I got them pretty spot on here, but I don't know why I have trouble with the blue and the white on his eyes. It definitely seems like it was harder for me to do. As you can see, I'm using some white out to touch up his eyes too. I didn't want to use the white Posca because I figured it would look a little weird. But as you can see, I did the black lines. I kind of cut it there because it's going to be boring to watch. Line art is one of the most boring things to watch an artist do, unless it's like really well edited, which I don't know how to edit that well. So, and I colored in his cheeks using a. I didn't have a good enough, the correct color for his little cheeks on his face there, so I had to use an alcohol marker for that. But I think it came out pretty well. As you can see, I'm adding some blue highlights. I do end up adding too many, and then I go back and cover those up, but that's the magic of these markers, is that if you end up making a mistake, you can layer these markers over so much to the point where you just fix a mistake, and you're going to see that here pretty soon. But I wanted to add something else to the drawing. I felt it was a little boring as it by itself, so I wanted to add some blue shading and then a couple white highlights, but not too many. But I ended up adding too many, and then I ended up correcting them. I also added some dark blue highlights to his shoes. And all of the artworks you see here will actually be posted into my Discord. I have a new art channel in my Discord, so if you want to go down to the description or my channel page, you can go, there should be a Discord invite link. You can click that and you can go to my Discord and post your own artwork in there. It can be, anybody can post their artwork, but I will be posting this, and I will have more Posca videos coming out soon. I have a couple more that I've done already. I will be posting more of my Posca artwork that I have not made videos on, and I will be posting more videos of artwork I've made using these pens, and those will also be posted on the Discord. So you can go watch those videos when they come out, or you can go to the Discord and post your own artwork and look at my artwork too if you want. And but as you can see here, I'm like layering over with that pink, and it seems to be working pretty well. I did go a little heavy on those blue shadows on his feet there, but you know, not too big of a problem. But yeah, if you want to post your own artwork, just go down to my Discord, and you can do that there. But yeah. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I do a ton of other art stuff on my channel, and if you enjoyed this video and you enjoyed watching me use these pens for the first time, I'm going to have a bunch more, and I mean a bunch more videos of me using these Posca markers to make artwork. I've had a lot of fun using them, and yeah, it's going to be, I think it's going to be fun. But if you want to watch them, just subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time I make a new video. But yeah, I'm touching up the line work a little bit here, and I definitely think it looks better, and it kind of added some shading underneath his eyeballs when I mixed the colors there. So, but yeah, I go back in and touch it up a few more times, and I definitely think it looks better with the blue shading and the white highlights. I definitely don't like the blue highlights on his shoes as much. I definitely think I should have just left those red, but you know, it doesn't look too bad. And yeah, what are my thoughts on these markers? They definitely have a learning curve to them. They can be finicky, but they are really fun to use once you learn all the basics of like, oh, how to clean up the paper, how to clean the markers, what markers you need to make certain things. But they're really fun, and I would definitely recommend them to any artist who likes making pop art or who likes cartoon characters. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. And if you want to see more Posca art stuff, definitely subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.